and welcome back to another Tasty Tuesday. This week we will be making pumpkin bread. For this recipe you are going to need 2 loaf pans, your 1 cup measuring cup, which is your biggest measuring cup, and it will have a number 1 on the handle. You'll need your 1/2 cup measuring cup, which will have a 1, a slanted line, and a 2, your 1 teaspoon, and your 1/2 teaspoon. You're also going to need either a stand mixer or a hand mixer. For this recipe, I'm going to use my stand mixer because that way I have both my hands free to add the ingredients to my bowl. The ingredients you will need for this recipe include all-purpose flour, granulated sugar, vegetable oil, baking powder, some water, ground cinnamon, ground nutmeg. You can choose between ground ginger or allspice, some salt, some baking soda, a can of pumpkin puree, and 4 eggs. Before we start baking, friends, we need to turn our ovens on to 350 degrees so they can get nice and warm, and we need to grease our loaf pans. So I am going to use some cooking spray, and I'm going to spray the bottom and all 4 sides of each pan. That way my bread does not stick. Now that both of my pans are greased and ready to go, I'm going to wash my hands and get to baking. I'm going to start by adding all of my dry ingredients except for my granulated sugar to a separate bowl, and then I'm going to use a fork to mix it all together. The recipe says we need 3½ cups of flour. So I'm going to take my 1 cup measuring cup and fill it up 3 times so I get my 3 cups of flour. Then I'm going to take my 1/2 cup measuring cup and fill it up 1 time. Now this is the important part, friends. When you are measuring out a dry ingredient like flour or sugar, we always want to level off the top of the measuring cup. So you can either use the side of a knife. I actually have a little scoop that comes with my flour container, and you are going to gently slide it over the top of your measuring cup to take off any extra bits from the top. And now it is nice and level. That's 1, 2 more to go. Now that I have my 3 cups, I'm going to do 1/2 cup so I have enough flour. Now that I have my flour in a bowl, it's time to add the rest of my dry ingredients. So I need a 1/2 teaspoon of my baking powder, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 1½ teaspoons of salt, one teaspoon of cinnamon, and the best way is to take the lid off . We need a teaspoon of nutmeg, and we need a 1/2 teaspoon of either ginger or allspice. And I'm going to use allspice for this. Now that we have all of our dry ingredients in the bowl, I'm going to use my fork to mix it together. Once it is all mixed, I'm going to set it aside and move on to my wet ingredients. Before mixing my remaining ingredients together, I recommend pre-cracking each of your eggs into a separate bowl. This way you make sure you don't get any eggshells in your batter. First up, we're going to add our canned pumpkin to our mixing bowl. I like to use a spatula so I can make sure I get all of the pumpkin out of my can. After the pumpkin, I'm going to add 3 cups of granulated sugar. So I'm going to need my measuring cup again, and just like we did with the flour, we need to make sure we level off the top so we make the top nice and flat. That's 1, 2 more to go. After the sugar comes 1 cup of vegetable oil. And if you don't have vegetable oil, friends, you can use a cup of olive oil or even a cup of applesauce. After the vegetable oil, it's 2/3 cup of water. Make sure you are looking at the right lines when you measure to ensure you have the right amount. After our oil and water are added, the last step is to add in our eggs. Now that all of my ingredients are in my mixing bowl, it's time to add it to my mixer and get it going. Friends, you want to start mixing on a low speed so your liquids don't splash out of your bowl. When it looks like all of your ingredients are well combined, you can turn your mixer off, and now you're ready to add your dry ingredients. Once your wet ingredients are combined, you can slowly add in your dry ingredients that you have mixed earlier. So I'm just going to add a little bit, and then with a rubber spatula, you can also use a spoon, I'm going to gently blend the ingredients together. So give it just a couple of little stirs. I don't want to overmix my batter. I'm going to add a little bit of the flour, and I'm going to use my spatula to gently mix it together. Once that's pretty well combined, I'll add some more dry ingredients. You keep going until all of your dry ingredients are mixed in well with the wet. Now that my batter is all mixed together, it is time to add it to my pans. Now here is the part that a grown-up really needs to help you, because you want to try and get your batter as evenly into your 2 pans as possible, meaning you have the same amount in each pan. And if your batter comes out with some little clumps of flour like mine did, you can always just mix it back in to your batter. And I have a little bit extra batter in this pan than this one, so I'm going to use a measuring cup, a small measuring cup, to try and even it out a little. Now that I have my batter in both of my pans, I'm going to give them a good tap a little bit on the counter. This just helps get out any air bubbles, and then I'm going to clean up the sides because it makes it easier when I go to clean my pan later. Friends, now my bread is ready to go in the oven. Remember, friends, when we are using our oven, it gets very hot, so this is a job for your grown-up. I'm going to set a timer for about 1 hour, and then I will check to see if my bread is done. Friends, you will know when your pumpkin bread is ready to come out of the oven when you stick either a toothpick or a butter knife into the middle and it comes out for the most part clean. There are just some crumbs sticking to it, no batter goo. These breads are ready to come out and I am going to let them cool for about 5 minutes in the pan and then they are ready to come out and be eaten. Yummy!